we mic'd up? So some of you probably know Alphabird for video. And are we able to get the slide deck up? So some of you probably know us for video, and about 3 years ago, Chase and Alex founded Alphabird. And the core thrust of what we did is guaranteed video views. And so pretty quickly, as you guarantee video views, I'll stand here. It's a little small for the screen. But in order to do that, you have to drive audience. So we started building tech and driving audience, and we'd put these videos on other people's pages. You learn pretty quickly, or you die, trying to drive audience and get people to play a video. It's effectively a CPA campaign. Not only that, you need to get them to watch that video. So we learned a lot about audience. At the same time, we started learning a lot about content, and we built systems. So for the audience system, we have a platform, and that platform does a couple of pretty basic and fundamental things. It looks at traffic, purchase traffic, before it gets to the publisher site, and the idea is to make sure that it's good, clean, safe, matches the right criteria. So we started doing business with publishers at the same time, flighting on these page takeovers, and eventually they would call and say, hey, we'd like to buy some of that traffic. We're oversold, it's the time of the year, whatever it is. So we started selling traffic. My background, I'm COO of Alphabird, and my prime responsibility is product. So as we started building an ad ops team, I brought in traders from sort of Wall Street and banks. It just made more sense for what we were trying to do. We look at data as the core of everything. We look at tons and tons of data on a daily basis. And that's where all the decisions get made. So once we started getting into this business, we realized we need to become a publisher as well. And we did. And we started accruing a lot of publisher clients. And we took another direction. We call this Yield Connect. So we do three things. This is Audience Connect. We bring audience to publishers, and we make sure that it fits criteria. We do Content Connect. We help publishers optimize content, especially video content. And most recently and most prolifically, Yield Connect, which is effectively a solution that you could think of as an SSP, but I'll go into sort of what the differences really are for us and how we offer that out to our publisher clients. So right now we're about 80 publishers, and we do somewhere around 8 billion impressions per month, and it runs through this system. I've only got 2 slides, but I broke it into 8 divisions. So I like to walk things. I doubt you can read any of this, so I'll walk you through this. I tend to want to see things as a scenario, because again, I've been here for 3 years, and before that I was in the trading environment, so I need things explained to me really clearly. So you've got a publisher page here, and I've got the ad server separated out. One visitor comes in, and let's say they came in from Google and they were searching football scores, and you've got one ad unit. That ad unit will make a call out. And the way we visualize the auction is we would look at this and we would say this is a floor, a dynamic floor, or some sort of direct order. Small amount. We're not looking to displace primary ad servers here. And in this example, you've got a couple DSPs. You would want as many as possible. And we've actually got a couple of SSPs in this same example. And I think that's one of our core differentiators, is to say we've done this at scale for quite a while now, and you simply have higher yield if you put SSPs in the mix in parallel. And we were told that it wouldn't work, but it does. And we test it all the time, and if you take some of them out, you end up making less money on a daily basis. So anyway, you've got them all in, and they're receiving standard parameters. Everybody gets sort of the IP address and the browser and all the things that especially the DSPs need to make a decision on how to value that person in an auction. So the next thing you've got is the actual, your second price auction, which is something that we host. And we do it directly. We work with lots of different partners. On the SSP side, we're working with AdMeld, PubMatic. We work with Switch. We work with Rubicon, across the spectrum. So once everybody's received their data, they've all submitted bids. And again, I can't even see this, but I think it's something like the SSPs are sort of an estimated bid in this process for us. Some are not, but some are estimated. Maybe you've got a fixed bid. But what's really interesting here, especially if you're sort of thinking as a trader would, which is how do I dissect this thing? maybe you've got Nike coming in, and you can see that. You know that Nike's in the auction, and you know where they're at. And if they really want that user, you'll see their high bid, and they're leaning on the concept of a second price auction. And there's somebody else in here who's the high bidder. So if Nike's bidding 15, you probably have somebody else in that auction that's much lower, so they'll only pay 3, let's say. So you can do a couple of things here. There's industry terms. Some of you may not be familiar with them. Some of you might. Soft floors, dynamic floors, meaning when you look at this second price auction, what sort of floor should you put in? Is it okay to let Nike pay 3, or should you put something else in? And we allow our publishers, as long as there's transparency back out to the bidder, to set those floors and say, if Nike bid 15 and somebody bid 3, I want to sort of split the difference and pull more money off the table. I think it's not new, it's not widely known, and it is sort of controversial, but I think it's about being open. I'm really about open access to the entire concept. So you set those rules, and that's great, and you may be able to pull more money off the table, but there's something even more interesting going on, which is the data piece. I'll step out of the way, and you probably still can't read this, but one of the things most publishers aren't doing is collecting data and putting it on their user in the form of a cookie or some sort of browser ID, but effectively attaching data to the user. Most publishers are using data that we meet to figure out what they should do to the content of their sites, and that's great. And most publishers also feel that their data leakage is occurring, and it is. The advertiser serves, and they now know your audience. But the publisher has an opportunity here as well, and I think that's been really powerful for us. So you look at what's happened here. This user's come in, and you know that they've come in from Google. You should store that because that's search retargeting, and you should store it on that particular user. You also know some of the brands who are bidding and what they're bidding. So if Nike thinks that user's worth $15, that's a valuable user. They're probably retargeting. Maybe they're doing something else, but Nike has a high certainty of that high value, and you can now categorize that person as a high value probability for, let's say, sports brands. Probably not going to do it for Nike, but you'll aggregate that into some other bucket. And as you gain lots of users with lots of experience, publisher now has a big set of users that they can go do internal things, run reports, make decisions, talk to their current advertisers. But in our dealings with publishers, they were very interested in how do I use this in a different way? And this is particularly where we start using partners, tightly connected partners, but partners still. You need a DMP that can do a good set of machine learning on that data. That's just sort of a mandate, but there's lots of them out there. One of the ones that we like is Sociocast, but there's probably 6 or 7 others that seem to fit the bill. And once you do that, then you need a bidder who has access to lots of other inventory. But the first thing the publisher needs to do, let me back up a little bit. The publisher can then go to a brand and say, we can reach my same audience, but we can reach them off network. And here's who they are. In fact, here's a bunch of things you know about them. We can categorize them based on who else bid on them, who else thinks they're valuable. Once you have your bidder, you've got to go out to another network of publishers, off network, approved. I'm sure there's lots of different cycles for figuring out who those are. But this gives this publisher A the ability to use lots of other publishers and maintain control of the audience. So one of the things I like to do is look at how does the money flow. For a publisher, I don't know what the representation should be, but every user that comes in has a cost. Whether it's content, whether you bought them directly, whatever it is, there's a cost there. And in an auction, there's obviously, this is where you're making money. And by using this system that we propose, where you let everybody in, more bid tension is better for yield, you should see a pretty good uplift. We see between 40 and 60% uplift. But when you think about the data, that's a really powerful piece because you can go sell that over and over. And every time you do sell it, you get more data back on that user. So you're constantly building up this pool of data by using both auction results and standard results that you would see out in the wide world of the web. So in one sense, I think it's allowing the publisher to play some offense. Publishers have been playing defense on data. Well, that really doesn't work. First of all, it's kind of expensive, and it doesn't get you anywhere. So maybe the idea is for a publisher to play offense in a candid environment and start being able to attach to audience off network. And you kind of see there's a full loop there. So I told everybody I'd make it fast. This many slides. That's the end of my presentation. I think I'm in under my 12 minutes. So if anybody's got a question, I'll be glad to answer.
All right, here we go, right here.
Nick Ely from Media 6 Degrees. You mentioned that you sell traffic to publishers that may be oversold. What are some of your owned and operated properties?
We've got about 80 owned and operated properties. I would say my favorite is Drivers Who Know. I'm a car enthusiast, so that would be one of them. But there's about 80. There's a list of 80. In fact, those properties are actually in the midst of not being our owned and operated. We're selling those out. We felt like it was a conflict with the publisher. It was great to be a publisher for a while, but we feel like if we're going to service the publisher and make that the core of our business, and we are, then we'll sell those properties out. But if you're really interested in the list, we can get you one. Did somebody else have a question? Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh.
Can you tell please what category of publishers you feel it can work the best?
That's a good question. The category that seems to drive the most interest are big brands, brand names that your mother would know. They are anxious for the service component. This does have a service component in it. So to give you an example, we're fairly automated. So one trader will generally handle 20 to 30 properties. But I think internally, this constant adjustment for optimization and just sort of understanding all the moving parts, the big publishers seem most ready, which was a bit of a surprise to me. But also the mid-sized publisher seem to have plenty of interest. But some of them actually are the more sophisticated, and they're already doing similar things.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, and Justin, you have some folks here from your team as well today, or is it just you?
No, we do. In the back row, we've got about 4 people. We've got Nelson, we've got Roland, we've got Mason, and
Raise your hand, guys.
John.
Just if you don't mind. Yeah, there we go. Okay. Team
So-
Alphabird back there. Cool.
So if there's any other questions, they'd be glad to jump in.
Great. Thank you very much, Justin
you.
and Alphabird. Really appreciate it. Good
Thank
job.
you.
So we're going to take about 10 minutes to just sort of clean the room up a little bit. If you guys need to hit the bathrooms or refresh your coffees, please do so. Again, thanks to